Good morning, students. This section is still in the botany section. Remember that after each section, there is a corresponding quiz that you'll be able to take. It's a short quiz just to see how much you retained, and then you can not only read about it in chapters 24 and 25, at the end of the week, there will also be a quiz that will help demonstrate that you actually learned something. Now, we talked about how things interact with the soil, and I'm going to talk about how they flow around now. The roots are the interaction part with the soil, of course, and they have rootlets to interact with that soil. And I talked about one of my favorite topics, the surface area by the root hairs around the root. This is an increase in the surface area just to get more nutrients and especially water into the plant. Now the plant will allow some interaction directly with it with water where it can come in across a number of these cells that don't have tight junctions, but then it has a specialized set of cells called the Casparian strip. Casparian strip, if you look in the histology slide, is surrounding the entire rootlet, and it kind of looks like a star here, but on the very outside is the Casparian strip, and they have tight junctions here to allow only the water and minerals and such that they want to go in. And they do this through specialized protein transporters, where they'll only, it's a set of proteins inside the cell membrane, they'll only allow potassium ions through, or um, any kind of nutrient through specifically, and then it can allow water to come through, but only at a certain rate. So if it pumps ions into this area, the water is going to follow it in naturally. And please remember that, because later on the water is going to be playing a very important part. So talking about the important part, how does it get around in the plant? Well, there are two tubes, and you'll need to know each one of them in order to answer the questions correctly at the end of the quiz, or during the quiz after the lecture. The xylem and phloem. The xylem is a set of tubes that transports liquids and nutrients from the roots to the leaves and basically everything. And these, oddly enough, are like straws. They're just dead tubes, cells that grow into a tube. It's like having a straw tree, and all the trees will make these hollow tubes already. And that's essentially what it is. Trees are essentially a lot of just hollow straws packed together really tightly. That gives them a lot of structural stability straight up and down, but it will also let them flex a little bit. And I'll show you some pictures later on of that. But these dead cells of xylem are found all over the plants. On the eudicot, which is a type of flowering plant, and the monocots, which is also a type of flowering plants, you can see bundles of what we call vascular tissue. It's like veins and arteries in us, except there's no heart. And you can see these bundles on the eudicot on the outside in a clockwise circle. And what you can see is the phloem on the outside and the xylem on the inside. And sometimes there's more tubes on the inside that transport the liquid as well. But the xylem is dead. Look, monocots have a screaming little face of vascular tissue. Yes, I do think about how monocots have little screaming faces throughout them. Look at that. Look at all the screaming faces. It's concentrated around the outside, but they're throughout the actual part of here, whereas eudicots are definitely around the outside. Now the phloem, those are cells that are constantly growing. They are living cells, and they're usually on the outside, as shown here. And usually towards the outside of the rings for eudicots and trees, and then monocots, it's still on the outside of the screaming little face. The forehead of the screaming face. And if xylem transports from the roots to the leaves, phloem transports water and sugar, and that's it, from the leaves to the roots, basically everything else. And there is a process that pushes the water with the sugar along, basically the replacement of a heart that moves this around. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Here are some structural pictures, electron micrographs of not street level drainage ditches and such like that, but actual phloem and xylem. This is a great system. These are two cells that are connected together, and this is the outside of some of these of phloem and xylem, where they have little holes that'll drip out liquids, not pour them out, but drip them out under pressure. And they kind of fit together like this. Each of the individual cells that grows a tube will link to the next one. It's a fascinating process. And here's a cross-cut an electron micrograph of trees. And you can see each of these little tubes is part of the overall structure, microtubes. And they help with structural stability and transporting liquids and minerals all over the place. If you remember this crosscut here, you'll remember that there is essentially these small tubes everywhere. And each ring on a tree, which indicates a year's worth of growth or a season's worth of growth, really shows you how many years it's been alive. But what are those light and dark strands anyway? Well, the light part of it is faster growing, less densely packed spring wood, as in they grow during that springtime very rapidly. And then over summer, they grow in a shorter fashion, so it's much more compact, and that's one growing season. On the outside of the trees, just under the bark, is Cambrium. The Cambrium actually has phloem in there, and there's xylem in all these other rings, all those circles that you saw here, those straws. So the phloem on trees is on the outside because it grows with the tree. So if a tree gets damaged or hit, or somebody tears the bark off, you'll see the tree start weeping, and that's mostly because there is precious sap with fluids, nutrients and such in there, where the phloem is bringing it back down to the roots and the rest of the tree. If you cut all the way around and cut all the phloem, you're going to kill the tree.